This is a story of transformation through trial, of hearing God's voice in the middle of chaos, of standing firm when the walls closed in, and of discovering that you can't have a testimony without a test. Shortly after we began attending the new church, things began to change a bit. This church was a bit different than we were used to. There wasn't a Wednesday dinner at the church, nor was there Bible study on or before the sermon. However, there were plenty of donuts and coffee, which was a plus. It took us some time to get used to the way they did things. Instead of Bible study at the church, they had different groups you could join. Groups were based on what age you were in or what interested you. For example, there are men's-only groups, married couple groups, or even groups that share a hobby like photography. The church would provide material that would go along with the sermon for the week to spark discussion. Going to a new church was one thing, but meeting new people and discussing my personal life with total strangers was different. That would have to wait. Brian and I worked together, so we got to talk about the sermons at work. He did invite me to a men's Bible study to check it out, and it was a bit awkward for me. However, I met somebody during the one time I attended. He worked for an international non-profit ministry that was well known. I had been at my job for about 2 years at this point and began to look around. That's when I noticed that the non-profit company was looking for a network manager position. The gentleman I met was able to help me get an interview. The rest was history. I joined the ministry. I was able to use all of my knowledge to jump in, save the day, help them reduce costs, and train some people fresh out of college. I got promoted to director after just a few months. Things were going well. After a year or two, we were able to break the company's record of money raised. It was pretty cool. I was very excited to be a part of it. Then things took a dark turn. We came into work one day and everyone was greeted at the door and told to attend an all-staff meeting. This had never happened before. We were told by the founder of the company that some executives were no longer employed with the company. He gave us a brief sermon about there being sin in the camp. This was related to Joshua chapter 7 in the Bible. After that day, things went great for the rest of the year. The people that were no longer there were pretty hard to deal with anyway, and now things were peaceful, so we thought. As we returned after Christmas the second year, we found out that the executives that were fired had filed a lawsuit, and the judge was going to reinstate them while the case continued. This was a nightmare. They came back and began to fire people. They fired my boss. Since my team and I had all of the digital evidence, I knew they were coming for me next. How could this be happening at a non-profit ministry? It felt like people were getting fired left and right as the court battles continued. This created an atmosphere of stress across the company. Was I about to get fired? I had just found a job that I really liked, with a company whose mission I could stand behind. It had been a few years since the last time I lost my job. This time, the job market had picked back up, and I felt like I had options. Uncertain what I should do, I decided to pray about it. We were at church, and right after the worship part of the service, we typically prayed just before the sermon. This time, as we all stood for prayer, I gave it to God. I thanked Him for giving me the job I had. I told Him I would do whatever He wanted. I just needed to hear from Him for direction. That's when it happened. I heard a voice in my head like never before. He said, "Stay." It was as clear as a bell. As soon as that happened, my wife nudged me out of prayer. I was mad and responded with, "What the hell are you doing?" That's right. I cursed at my wife in church just after hearing God respond to my prayer. I was upset that she interrupted Him. Apparently, I was standing there with my head bowed and eyes closed so still that my wife thought I was asleep, standing up. After the service, I told her what had happened and that I was going to stay at my job because I felt God had told me to do so. I don't recall her asking many questions, but she was supportive and along for the ride. This changed everything. Knowing that He wanted me to stay for whatever reason gave me the confidence and courage to face the battles that lie ahead at work. The next 9 or 10 months were a nightmare at work, not just for me, but for everyone involved. People were taking sides and fighting with each other. People were calling the local media, and the next thing you know, it became a nationwide story with each side smearing the other. Police were called, and I had to speak to detectives a couple of times. It was crazy, but as much as it sucked going into work every day, I walked in with my head held high and a smile on my face. The founder of the company had once told me, "You can't have a testimony without a test." This became something that I would hold close to my chest. As things escalated, everyone knew that I had control of everything digital that may be used as evidence. So employees would look at me funny when we passed each other in the hallways. While some might have questions that I wouldn't answer, a lot of them showed concern or pity for me. They would ask, "How are you doing?" or "Are you holding up okay?" I would look at them with a smile on my face and respond, "I'm just here to pass the test." This would shock them. They couldn't understand why I was not afraid like everyone else was. During this 9-month nightmare, people were getting suspended without pay for a week or two as some sort of punishment for whatever they did wrong, but they would come back and continue work. It was weird. Court cases were flying everywhere. People would get fired and then file a lawsuit for wrongful termination. It was total chaos. Two sides were battling each other, and deceptive tactics were being deployed in an effort to try and trick the other side. Then, at the beginning of November, the noose began to tighten. I was one of the only directors that hadn't quit, been fired, been disciplined, or sold their soul to the devil. It was only a matter of time before I had to face the fire. While I won't provide the details here of how the enemy tried to ensnare me throughout the year, I will say that I was able to escape every trap they set up until this point. Things had become so bad that I hired an attorney to advise me. As their 3 attorneys were bringing people in for questioning during the past year, I was able to prevent that by writing them a letter, informing them that I would answer any question they had, as long as my attorney was present with me. This prevented their attorneys from questioning me. However, it did not prevent them from giving the list of questions to HR and having them ask me. This is where I drew the line. Wrong or right, I refused to give up the protection that hiring an attorney gave me. Therefore, they suspended me without pay indefinitely a few weeks before Thanksgiving. I was escorted to my office to gather a few things and then left quietly. Only 2 people noticed. God had protected me for 11 months that year. Little did I know how He was about to transform my life.